Well, an iconic Superior spot combined ice cream history and baseball today, all to raise funds for a local historical site. Fairlawn Mansion hosted its ice cream social today. The event included free tours of the mansion, a car show, music, and other family-friendly activities. Donations go back to Fairlawn Mansion for a restoration, new exhibits, and future events. Community partners from all over northeast Wisconsin tabled today. And this year's event was extra special as it was the 100th anniversary of Babe Ruth visiting the mansion back when it was a children's home.
He did a lot of charity work in his time as a professional baseball player, and one of those things he did was visiting orphanages and children's homes across the United States. So he came here, visited the kids, and took a really cool photo right on the front steps of the mansion.
And at the end of today's event, families recreated that iconic Babe Ruth photo at the front steps of the mansion. Part of the donations from today will be for the 2 upstairs bedrooms at Fairlawn, restoring them to how those rooms looked in their prime 130 years ago.